Coming up, Meta AIs in the UK.
No, it isn't.
It is.
It isn't.
Shaun, it is.
It isn't.
You're listening to Double Time, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Priest.
Hey, Shaun Priest. How are you?
I'm all right, Stephen. Thank you. Happy Mondays to you, sir.
Wow. Right, we're off and right. I'm trying to keep the energy up here. And trust me, when I tell you my story later, you're going to know that I'm struggling a little bit with that one today. But we'll get to that. Look, I have got the big news of the day.
Breaking news.
I finally have Meta AI in my glasses, not via a VPN, actually officially from Meta. And
Yes.
You don't.
I don't, yes. Breaking fake news because I don't. Again, this is such a mess, isn't it?
Oh, it's dreadful.
I've updated. I've got the new firmware, 14.1 for the glasses, which says in the release notes, Meta AI Look and Tell is now available in the UK. It's not for me. Doesn't work. I've reset. I've set up a new account, fresh account. I've done everything possible, and it's still not there. Tried it this morning, and it says not available in your region.
That's just so strange. And
Why?
And then the thing was, I did the update, and I got exactly the same thing. Most of the weekend, all I was getting was not available in your region. And then all of a sudden, one morning I woke up and there was a notification saying Meta AI is now available in your region. Now, of course, that's ridiculous, right? Because Meta AI has been in my region since I bought the glasses. It's the look and describe feature I haven't had. We had this discussion. I say this like I'm arguing with the phone. It's like, we've had this discussion. Don't you listen to the show? So I went into the app and it said you have to now enable location permissions. So you have to change your location permissions to always allow. And then after it did that, it came up with something else. Give us your firstborn or whatever it was. And after I did that, that is when it started working. So I think, I don't know. I think it may be to do with location preferences. I wonder if because we've all been using VPNs, it's kind of knocked a few accounts off the list and they're trying to remedy that.
Yes.
I don't know. I think what I would say to people is if you haven't got it yet, don't keep resetting your glasses, keep repairing them and all that stuff. Just wait. Just have a bit of patience because it will come. I didn't do anything with mine. I know you've reset your glasses a couple of times and it's not made any difference.
No, I've done a factory reset. I've set up a new account. I've tried everything, and it makes no difference. We've had so many emails and messages with people saying, I did this, I did that, and it started working. But honestly, I think it's just a case of this is obviously staggered or phased, or it could
Shambolic.
Shambolic. It is such a mess, but it could well be. And I think Craig sent us an email saying the same thing. He thinks it could be to do with the VPN. If your account has been flagged as using a VPN in the past, which I have done, maybe it's a case of, well, you're going to have to wait, or maybe they're holding back, or whatever it may be. So I think it's a case of, you know what, just wait. It's going to be pushed through to everyone. It's got to be soon. So I wouldn't go through the trouble of factory resetting and repairing because honestly, for most people, I don't think that is working.
Was it someone who got in touch with us saying, after they finally got it, they weren't particularly impressed?
Yeah, look, I'm not particularly... It's so difficult, though. Of course, I want the feature, but I haven't missed it particularly. Again, I use the Meta Ray-Bans for the Be My Eyes is amazing. I'm using Be My Eyes all the time compared to when it was just available on the phone. When I'm going up the shop, there's one road that I go to the shop, and the one road that I go up, there's so many cars on the pavement, and it slows me down. But it's so easy. Just when I get to the corner, I say, Be My Eyes to my glasses. I get contact with someone really quickly, a volunteer, and they simply say, yeah, one's coming up now, just head to your left a little bit. And it's so convenient. So I love them for that. The look and tell feature, I would like it, but I don't feel like I'm missing out yet. Although I do want the live video, although I don't know if we get that in the UK. I know that's available elsewhere.
That'll be the next.
Video.
That's next in the coming soon queue, I think.
Yeah. I would like the live translation as well. I think that could be pretty cool.
Oh, do you hang around a lot of Japanese people, do you?
I might do. What's it got to do with you?
I'm just asking.
Okay,
I don't know how many. I mean, I'm sure there are many very nice Japanese people living in
played yourself in a
Manchester,
corner.
England. No, but I don't know how many of them are probably speaking Japanese. They're probably speaking English, right? So I love this idea. They always keep talking about translation. And the only thing I can really see the value when it comes to translation, of course, if you travel a lot, it makes sense. But, most of us aren't doing that, right? We're not traveling abroad all the time. We're not in business meetings in Tokyo every 5 minutes.
You limit me. I might be.
You are
I'm
absolutely not. And neither am I.
I'll tell you what it is. It's just so futuristic. That universal translation, right? It's just so sci-fi. And I think that would be really cool. And we haven't...
Oh, hang on. I think I've just figured it out.
What?
I've just realised you're an incredibly nasty person.
What have I done now?
I've just realised it. I figured it out. I know what you're playing at. I know exactly what your game is, Priest.
What?
You want to translate Scottish people into English people. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to work out, when you come and visit me, what on earth these taxi drivers are actually saying to you.
Excuse me, when we were in that taxi together and you were saying, you can't understand a word, I understood every word that taxi driver was saying.
I have to say, you could have helped me out because I was struggling.
Yeah, it was a very strong accent.
Yeah.
Very Glaswegian.
Very, 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 very strong. But yeah. But no, I think one area that I find would be really good, and we see apps that are doing this already, is how it's able to use AI to detect and translate sign language. And I actually think this would be an amazing use because, look, how many deaf people might we come into contact? I'm going to be honest, probably more deaf people than Japanese people. I don't mind picking on the Japanese people. I like the Japanese people.
Stop it.
But, it's just, I'm more likely to come into contact. And actually, I remember in a place I used to work, there were loads of deaf people and I could never communicate with them. And it always felt really horrible in a way that I couldn't talk to them. And they couldn't really talk to me. It was really awkward, situations. And I think this is where this kind of technology could be amazing. It could break down barriers even between disabled people.
Yeah, well, we often talk about the isolation that we feel, with not being able to make eye contact and that social isolation. I mean, if you think you're hearing impaired as well, it must be 3 times as worse. So, yeah, absolutely. Anything to break down those barriers, and that would be really cool, right?
Yeah, although I will say, I did see Gordon, our good friend Gordon Anthony, who regularly gets in touch with us. He was on Mastodon, and he was really pleased about the whole look and tell feature, especially, and I think this is probably the more practical way to think about it, identifying items in the food cupboard. And I think that is where this is going to be a big game changer for a lot of people. Again, it's that hands-free operation. You're able to wear the glasses. It's not going to give you the kind of level of what Be My AI can give you, or even ChatGPT could potentially give you with the camera or whatever. I think it's still early days, and it's going to take some time to develop, although they are obviously moving very quickly with all of this stuff, and they're all getting new features all the time. But I think it's those kind of tasks. Like I was saying to you the other day about identifying CDs, using the Google Gemini. Again, it's about speed. It's about efficiency to some degree. I don't want to be sitting there for hours doing it. If it can just quickly snap a picture and say, oh, it's this album or it's that, then that's great. That's exactly what I need. Those are the things that are the daily challenges. You pick up a bit of post and say, is this for me? Who's this for? I had it the other day. A parcel came in. I had no idea what it was. My wife didn't either. And all we could get from it was that it was clearly for a neighbour. We knew the name. It wasn't ours, and it was the neighbour. And so, that helped, right?
Did you open it?
No, but that's the point, right? Normally I would just rip the box open. Did I tell you that story about the whole lingerie thing? Did I tell you that?
No, let's leave that there. Let's not tell that story.
No, I told it to someone. I don't know if it was on another podcast or what.
I don't think it was on air.
No, I think it was, but I don't know if maybe it wasn't on here. I said it to somebody. Oh, no, it was on AMI Today. I told the guys over on AMI Today. Made them nervous as well. But I talked about the fact that, I had opened up a parcel. There was lingerie in it. And I was nervous because I don't buy lingerie for myself. There you go, breaking news, if that is of interest to you.
People buy it for you.
If somebody wants to write a news article about that, then good for you. But it wasn't my wife's. She was concerned. And then we finally realised that it was for the next door. Imagine that conversation.
Did you sellotape it back up?
No, I just went with it. I said, there you go, there's your parcel. And I just...
There's your pants. Sorry about that.
Your nice pants.
Well, that's very embarrassing. Yeah, look, you're right.
You got to own it, right? You just got to own it and say, okay, whatever. That's the way it goes.
I've got to say, are we getting a bit spoiled? Because when you mentioned there taking a picture, I'm thinking, oh, I've actually got to take a picture to get a description of what I'm looking at. That's where the live video comes in. I don't have to wait for it to take a picture. It just, what's this?
But
what's
the thing
this,
is,
what's
it is
this?
taking a picture, right? It's just not taking a picture. It's not clicking the camera. That's the difference. It is taking a picture.
I suppose so. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Look, the bottom line is, thank you so much for all the messages. But I think it's just a case that we just have to wait. It will just switch on, I am sure, for everyone.
Yeah, we're not going to go on about it at the moment. I think the next time we talk about it, we're going to be doing some demos showing what it can do and actually talk about the benefits of it, because that's the thing. I've been wanting to play with it for such an amount of time and almost see what it can do. So
can it read a whole document yet? I'm still getting conflicting reports on that. Some people say it can, some people say no, it can't. Don't know.
We shall see. We'll start playing. But I want to talk about me.
Oh, of course. Yes, go on then, Stephen Scott.
So, weekend was a little bit interesting. And last week was quite interesting, to be perfectly honest. So you might remember, if I take you back, dear listener, to Wednesday's show last week, when I was talking about my Apple Watch had been giving me low heart rate notifications. And we kind of joked around a bit, and I was like, that doesn't seem right, does it? It's probably technology's rubbish, and who knows, and all the rest. And I thought to myself, so just to be very clear to our audience here, we actually recorded, and I don't know why we did this, but we recorded Thursday's show on the Wednesday. We did it both shows on Wednesday. So Wednesday we recorded Wednesday's show and Thursday's show. There was no show on Friday, of course, because it was Good Friday. Not for me, but anyway, it was a Good Friday for other people. And anyway, I had left the show, and I thought, what I'm going to do? I didn't feel right. I did, that way you just don't feel right.
Yeah, I know you didn't feel right. Yes,
and if you listen to that show, and I must admit, I did listen back to Thursday's show. I felt like I was trying to climb up a mountain while doing that program. I was really struggling. Anyway, I got to the doctor. I was in the doctor's for 5 minutes, and the doctor said to me at my GP surgery, and the doctor said, I think it's a good idea that you go to the hospital, Stephen. I thought, oh, no.
Yep.
So there I did. I went off to the hospital where I was thoroughly examined, checked out, poked, prodded, all that stuff. Some of that wasn't even necessary. And they have told me that I have got a condition, which means that I have irregular heartbeat rhythm. Now, I can't remember what they call it. Ectopic
I believe it
beats.
was atopic beats, which
Is it
I thought was
atopic?
atopic. I thought that was a nightclub in Ibiza.
I thought it was an Apple Music playlist. I'm sure I've skipped by that at different points in my life.
Yes, but
yes.
the bottom line being, before people start worrying,
Yeah, the bottom line was, ooh, that was the problem. That was the issue for me. Is that the bottom line? So what I'm interested in.
You were sending me was beep. Beep, 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 beep.
Well, I was sending you messages, and you were hearing the machine go absolutely insane behind me.
Yep.
And I was getting a little bit nervous. And what was getting me was no one in the hospital seemed particularly bothered by this machine going absolutely insane.
I know.
But anyway, the bottom line was I am fine. What I have is apparently very common. This is normal, and it's something I'm just going to have to learn to live with. But I will say it has tired me out. So, I'm going to have to learn to deal with it. So, no more shouting for a while. Not for long. I mean, I don't want to put people off the show.
Let's see how long that lasts for.
Yeah, I know.
I can guarantee you'll be back ranting before we know it.
Before the end of the program.
Yeah, so the low heart rate was a part of, you also got a higher heart rate, right? It's irregular.
It's irregular. So the Apple Watch,
30.
it only picks up so much. Yeah, at one point, I think that when I was being measured, they were saying my heart rate was at 36 BPMs, which is fine if you're an athlete.
Mm-hmm. Are you an athlete, Stephen Scott?
I'm trying to think of a name of an athlete, but no, I can't think of one. Not one that's not in jail. But
Leave it. Yes.
I'm not an athlete. No, I'm going to put it out there. I'm not an athlete. So this was not normal. But at the same time, I have now figured out what is wrong. But I'll be honest, it was a scary day. I was a little bit unsure what was going on.
We were very worried about you, Stephen.
I am fine. I am fine.
What are we going to do on Monday? I said. I mean,
we were kind of thinking what we're going to do on Friday, and then we were told by the powers that be that Friday there was no show. So
yes, that was lucky.
it's a bit of a relief on that one. For us anyway, but yes. So I am fine. I'm a little bit tired. I had to come off the coffee because of this. So this is another thing. I know, but it's ridiculous. And I'm on decaf coffee.
Just drink water. Just have water.
I've got water here. I'm drinking
coffee.
water right now, and it's just fine.
And
it's just,
we should say,
on a health
well
kick
done,
as well.
Apple. Well done, the Apple Watch.
Yes.
It's
kind of saved my life. I mean, it's not quite the same as I came off a motorbike in Illinois, and in the middle of nowhere, if that's where Illinois is. And I was found by a helicopter thanks to my Apple Watch. I mean, it wasn't one of those stories, but it does alert you to things.
To a problem.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I probably would not have gone to the doctor. I felt very tired. I felt very lethargic. I felt fatigued.
Yeah. Well, midweek.
Well, I was going to say, I felt like that for about 40 years, so I don't really know the difference anymore. But no, clearly when there's something like that, you got to go to get checked out. But yeah, the Apple Watch did certainly point me towards that. So it's not a good Friday for Stephen.
Okay, well, it turned out all right in the end. Everything
did.
Was fine. So
everything's fine. So
well
yes, but anyway, that is why. If you've noticed me being a little bit quiet on social, you'll now know why. Anyway, let's move on because lots to talk about today on the show, of course. And one story that I'm going to come back to is RNIB. Now, you might remember we were talking to Connor Scott Gardner last week, I think it was, or maybe a week before. I cannot remember now. But we were talking to Connor recently about RNIB and their decision to scrap free personal transcription services. They would now be pushing people to a paid-for service that people could use. It's a third-party company, a for-profit company. Connor was on with us. He was very upset about this. He had put together a petition to save our Braille, and I've not checked it recently, but I think it was over 900 signatures last time I checked, and that was a while ago. So, we're probably well over the 1,000 now, which is incredible. But it has pushed RNIB to respond, and they have come back to us with a statement. Let's hear that, as read by Laura. And this is from Matt Stringer, the CEO of RNIB.
Last year, we launched a new strategy putting the emphasis on making change at a societal level and the need for everyone, from individuals to businesses and government, to play a role in building equity for blind and partially sighted people. As part of this, we reviewed our services and looked at ways that we can urge others to be accountable for things like providing accessible formats to which people are legally entitled. However, we can't expect society to change overnight. For this reason, eligible personal transcription requests received by RNIB will be free of charge for the next year, with RNIB covering the cost of this service for these customers. The service will be provided by an external provider with 20 years of experience in this area. We'll also work tirelessly with different sectors, from health to education, to build understanding that they have a legal responsibility to provide their blind and partially sighted customers with written material in their preferred accessible format. We will also continue to support individuals who are being refused their rightful transcription requests. We realise that RNIB no longer providing this service itself may be disappointing for some of our customers, but by continuing to cover the costs for this period, we can actively work with the community to understand more about what they need from our personal transcription service, find a sustainable solution, and campaign to ensure all transcription needs are appropriately met by relevant organisations. We remain deeply committed to providing services, including those with Braille at the heart of them, from RNIB Bookshare supporting accessible educational materials and textbooks to our library collection, which has access to more than 11,000 Braille books.
So that's the statement from RNIB that has been sent in to us from RNIB, and in particular Matt Stringer, the CEO. First thoughts there, Shaun?
Okay, well, I'm glad it's still available to people for free. I'm slightly concerned that we're just kicking the problem down the line a little bit for a year, but I suppose people are going to be happy about this. I'm not sure about this, campaigning to make sure that the accessible format documentation is available from companies and organizations. That's different. They should be doing that anyway, surely. I don't want to come across as like being horrible here, but I mean, that's legislation.
Well, yes, and it kind of, I'll be honest, it stuck out a little bit for me as well, because I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, if you're going around telling companies that they have a legal responsibility to provide this, does that same legal responsibility fall on you as an organization? Shouldn't that fall on them as well?
Yeah, but they do provide, I'm sure everything they provide is in some sort of accessible format. But the difference here, this is more for, I mean, the examples given of, music sheet transcription, Braille music and people just wanting books that they may want to read to their children or just personal correspondence, maybe. They want that transcribed into Braille. I mean, that's a service specifically for the individual. That's a personal service that...
Yes.
I suppose it does.
But then they're all personal services, though, aren't they? I mean, if you turn around and say, well, I want my phone bill, for example, to come in Braille.
No, there's legislation that they should. I mean, they have to provide that in an accessible format. I get most of mine by CD. I don't even have a CD player anymore. I mean, I get most of them online. Of course, look, services and needs change. Of course they do. But I think there's something different about this. The examples that was given by Connor about, people wanting, as I keep going back to, I know maybe it's just too emotive, but, the parent who wants to read a book to their child and they want it in Braille. I think that's something that, a sight loss organization needs to be there to fill a gap that maybe isn't served anywhere else. I think it brings up an interesting argument about the strategy of making it all about, society changes. Is that...
Yeah, see, this is a danger. I think that this is the problem. I think with what comes back to the social model of disability, the idea that society is to blame for everything, and that once once all the problems in society are solved, there won't be any more issues for us as disabled people. And I think that's fair to a point, but I also think that there has to be. I mean, there needs to be specialisms in everything, right? Whatever it is, there have to be specialisms in it. I mean, Braille's a perfect example of that. If you decide to go down the route of society solves all problems, well, Braille's dead. That's the truth. Because, society at large is not going to adopt Braille into everyday life. So, you're not going to have every book available in Braille because not every publisher is going to be able to make that happen. You'd have to have every single publisher make it possible to have a Braille copy. Where do they go when they want the Braille copy? They go to specialist organizations, right? Now, if that ends up becoming a for-profit model, Braille's dead. It just is. Because there just aren't enough people reading Braille at the moment to sustain that on its own. This company that are doing the free personal transcription, who I don't know the name of this company, but this company doing it for profit clearly must be doing other stuff on top, because if it's doing it only for that, I mean, if RNIB are saying it's essentially too small a service for them to be dealing with,
500 people.
Well, it's not going to be worth much to a for-profit company, is it?
Well, it depends on the cost. What is the cost?
It's a bit like the argument of government getting involved in things versus private companies running things. If companies run things, it's for profit. If government does it, it's to fill a need. And I think charity, non-profits, that's what they are there for. So I suppose my question is, what long-term is RNIB for? And any of these organizations, what are they for? If they say that society at large is to be in charge of doing everything, because that's what it kind of feels like. It feels like all these things are being pushed out.
But no.
Well, they are.
I think
they're pushing out to a third-party company right now. So if they're saying, okay, so they're pushing out to a third-party company, okay, yes, that's good that RNIB are going to cover the costs for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, they're appeasing us in that sense. They're saying, okay, we'll pay for it. So, okay, that's covered. It still remains free. With caveats to that, and I think we all agree there has to be limits. You can't walk in there with 1,000 pages and expect that to be transcribed for free. I think, I also think, and we've had some comment on this already from listeners, we'll get through it, I'm sure, and get to it, but, we've heard people saying, look, we should have an option to pay. There should be like a plus option on this, so if someone does want more, they can pay for it. It's the charity model, I think, that sometimes gets in the way of all this. I think charities themselves should find a way of trying to bridge the gap between profit and non-profit. I think that's the mistake. It's either all non-profit or it's for-profit. That's how it tends to land. If a charity said, okay, look, we're going to do this, we're going to keep this service going, and for certain people who can afford it, they should pay. All right, now how that's determined, we can argue, but ultimately it could be a decision made by the individual. Someone like me calls up and says, I need this, I'll pay for it, okay? And then, you have people who can't pay for it. This essentially subsidizes that cost. So it becomes a for-profit, for good model. It's not just for profit. And this is, I think, the mistake. It's sometimes that they don't really think beyond the charitable status. and actually what's ended up happening is this whole service has been hived off to a third party. And in a year's time, who knows what's going to happen? I should also say it's been announced that Matt Stringer, the CEO, is leaving at the end of the year. He's standing down at the end of the year. So this decision has absolutely been kicked into the long grass. It will be for the next CEO to decide what happens.
Good luck with that, the next CEO.
And trust me, you're going to have people at Connor and everyone else, standing saying, okay, what are you going to do about it?
I suppose it does. It calls into question the role of sight loss organisations. What are they there for, as you said?
Yeah.
I mean, is it to make sure that companies and big organisations do live up to their responsibility to making, their information, their services accessible to all? Or is it to fulfil the needs of the individual?
Well, why can't it be both?
Impaired people. Well, exactly. Maybe the answer is that it can't be both because of the finite resources and the lack of funding. In which case, you do need to start looking at services and saying, can we still offer this for free? There's look, in the ideal world, of course, services like that would be free of cost, because why can't we access it if we can't afford to pay for it? It should be accessible out of the gate, but we know the real world doesn't work like
exactly.
that.
That's not the real world, but that's why there have to be other options available.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, look, I think we have to think about the role of these organizations and what they're doing. I think also, if I'm honest, it's partly because, dare I say it, I'll get shouted down again for saying it, because I always do, you need more blind people in the room and not volunteers. If I am sick reading about, great voluntary position available in an organization which is making millions a year through donations. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. That is not good enough. Start paying people for doing things. I've been asked many times to get involved in various things in organizations. Now, I've made choice over the years to get involved in voluntarily sometimes, but other times I've thought, hang on a minute, you're asking me to do serious amount of work here, and you're and another one that gets me is lived experience. I hate that phrase, by the way. Hate it with a passion. Hate that phrase, because it's just absolute nonsense. It's how we live. This is our life, right? And then you get people come along, companies come along and say, we'd love to get some, of your lived experience. Come and tell us about your lived experience. And I often say, okay, and what's the fee on that? Oh, well, we couldn't ask to pay you to, get your lived experience, because it's either valuable to you or it's not, right? So if it's valuable to you, I'm going to put a dollar figure on it. If you don't like that, get someone else.
Yes, but then you get guilt tripped in, don't you want to help the community?
No, not for free. No, I'm sorry. I've got bills to pay as well. So, hello, if there's an opportunity to, and I say this for everyone else who is in this position, who gets bullied into doing this or guilt tripped into doing it, don't go for it. If you get a call from someone saying, hey, could you, give us some lived experience for free? No, I'm not going to go through my worst days. I'm not going to tell you about my worst experiences to sit there. And then, by the way, that impacts me, right? I have to sit there and tell you this horrific story about whatever it is that you think I need to tell you. I've got to open up and tell you all this. Doing it for free, you guys all go off and feel better about yourself. Oh, well, goodness me, at least my life ain't that bad, eh? Thank God for that. Meanwhile, I'm in the corner crying. Thanks very much. No. You want that story?
Have to be horrific.
You want that story? You better pony up.
Look, I agree. I think we have turned.
Hang on, did I say I wasn't going to rant today?
Yeah, I'm just quickly jumping in to calm you down. I think we have turned a corner when it comes to our own attitude towards ourselves. There is a worth to this lived experience.
You and I and certain others are starting to realise it. But I have to say, the amount of people I speak to, we've been on calls with people before recently, actually. I remember being on a call with someone, and they were almost like ashamed to ask for money. And I'm like, but you're providing a service. You are providing a service. I mean, do you think these people who are sitting in the chairs, who are all wearing their suits, do you think they're all sitting there for nothing? Don't think so. Here's an idea. The next CEO of RNIB, let them be voluntary.
Yeah, why
See
not?
What happen, right? Why not, right? You want the people to come in and give your time voluntarily? Then you should be a volunteer. Let's see how that goes. Let's see how many people apply for that role.
I will say, though, there is a place for volunteering, right? Absolutely. That's how I got started. I was just so sick of not having anything to do, no reason to get up in the morning. I started looking at volunteering, and it gave me a step into okay, can I do this? Am I capable? Even just stepping out of the door and commuting or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It gave me, it's almost like, testing myself. So absolutely, volunteering is beneficial.
Shaun, I wouldn't
not
be in the
just for the
job I'm in if it wasn't for volunteering. I started literally across the road from where I live. There was a hospital, and that hospital was where I began what would be considered to be whatever the hell this is as a career.
Yes.
And, I sat down in a little shed over there. Yeah. Before you were in a shed. Your shed was in nappies or diapers, to internationalize. And, I sat over there and I, did my broadcast and made all my mistakes, learned a lot of things, got on, got a job out of it. It was brilliant. I had a great time, but I did that by volunteering. Now I realize, and this is the thing, you get the other side of the coin. You get the Gen Zers who just don't want to do anything, right? They want it paid for absolutely everything. Now, part of me doesn't disagree with that, right? I think if you're going into a job, and I think internships are a joke these days, because they expect you to pretty much do a full 40-hour a week, for absolutely nothing. No thanks. I'm with them on that. But, at the same token, you really do need to, sometimes, for your own sake, you've got to sometimes push and do something that perhaps means you don't get paid for it. Like, I remember working with a guy once and he was saying, there's this course I really want to do because it will really improve my career, but my company won't pay for it. And I said, well, who's the value for? You or them? If the value's for you, pay for it. Do it yourself. Yeah. I'm not paying for it. Well, shut up about it then. Because at the end of the day, it's your career. It's not their career. It's your career. So whatever you want to do in life, if you think doing this will make a difference, and we've all done it, we've all made judgments, we've all said, okay, we'll do that for free, or I'll do this for nothing. Just because you think, well, actually, what's the bigger picture here? So that's fine, but that's a choice. That's a choice we make. But when someone gets in touch with you and says, and I remember that email, and I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, but I think it might have been Nicole who got in touch with us. I think it might have been Nicole who said that she had been in Australia. She was working in a job teaching people how to use assistive technology. And then she came to the UK, and that was essentially a voluntary role. Her job that would be a well-paid career in one country was a voluntary role in the other. That is not good enough. And with the best will in the world, I am never going to be, I just wouldn't be a volunteer in that role because I can't give that amount of myself for nothing. I think, there's people being paid in these organizations and you're not being paid. Why? And to me, there's no argument, there's no answer you can give me that's going to satisfy me. I'm sorry. There's not an argument you can make that's going to satisfy me on that. It just isn't. And I know what the argument is, right? There's not enough money.
There isn't enough money.
Well, do you know
exactly.
what? Maybe you need to rethink things then. Maybe you need to rethink how your organization runs.
Are being spent, yeah.
Where is the money being spent, right?
I can't disagree with that.
Is it 15,000 HR people sitting telling you that, you've got to make sure you've done your recent DEI course? Yeah.
Oh, you against DEI now? Okay. That's good to know.
Don't get me started
let's move on.
Don't even get me started on that. I'm not against the course. I'm not against anyone learning things, and I'm not against awareness, but I will say that in the early days of all this, some of the stuff that came out of that was utterly ridiculous. It was really ridiculous. Some of the, and again, nothing to do with the job at hand. It was ridiculous.
Okay, let's go back to that statement. Look, it's good news, I suppose, because people who are using this service have got a reprieve. But again, this is a reprieve, right? And I suppose the question is, as Matt's statement said there, we'll look into sustaining this service in the future.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment, wasn't it? Make it more sustainable. Well, hang on a minute. Wasn't it sustainable with what you put in place at first when they were paying for it? So is this company not sustainable? I mean, what are we saying here? What is sustainable in this?
Yeah, well, are they talking about from their point of view of, part paying for the service or totally moving away and making this a fully paid to the third party? Whichever. But the point is, that should have been done right at the start. Yeah. My biggest issue with all of this, because there is a conversation to be had about sustainability of a service, my biggest issue was the way it was done. No consultation, just, okay, we're turning that off.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's going to change. We've got a year to talk about this and have that conversation. So from that point of view, it's a good result.
Okay, look, we'll take a short break. We're going to tell you how you can get involved with the show if you wish to. We're going to get to more of your feedback very soon, I promise, but got a couple of more stories to share. First up, though, here is how you can get involved with the show.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback at doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
And remember, you can go to doubletaponair.com/contact to get access to the phone number and also our toll-free number you can dial as well. If you want to call in from North America or anywhere else in the world, there's a UK number as well. We've had that for a while, so we keep that open for anyone who wishes to use it. If you're in the UK and you want to give us a call, please do. Okay, let's move on. I tell you that this is what happens when you don't have coffee. I don't know, it just changes your mood. I don't like it. I want to go back to coffee.
Get back on the coffee. Your heart will be fine, I'm sure.
It'll be fine.
Quick note, I'm not a medical man. Please don't
and
take
also
any
the
medical
consultant said,
advice.
please do not drink any more coffee, Stephen. So, thank you. I'm on decaf now. Do you know decaf? It's the devil's drink, I think, because honestly,
Well, don't drink it.
No, but it's so pointless. It's like, tempting you with the smell of coffee. The smell of coffee. It even tastes like coffee. What does it do for you? Absolutely nothing.
Well, what do you want it to do?
I want it to wake me up. I want it
heart?
to make my brain explode. I want to be like that guy in Limitless.
And coffee does that. Okay.
Oh,
Right.
I should tell you.
Mm.
New Netflix show to watch. Ding-a-ling-ling-ling-ling. Little alert.
New on Netflix, yes.
I Hostage.
Okay.
Watch
Is that. EYE? Is
No,
there some
it's
sort
the
of
letter
blind?
I, and it's because the whole thing's set in an Apple store.
Oh, of course. You must have been drawn to
it
it,
was
Stephen Scott.
drooling over it. I was like, this is the best show. I get to watch a movie inside an Apple store. I mean, it couldn't be any better. Surprisingly, though, it's not on Apple TV Plus. And when you watch the content, you'll probably realize why. Although I will say I'm amazed that Apple even let that film happen. But I suppose they had to. It was a true story, apparently, a true story thing that happened in Amsterdam. Tulips from Amsterdam.
Yes, it's
Hello, Amsterdam people. I like Amsterdam. It's my it's my favourite of all the Dutch places.
Wow.
That's me not welcome back. I know, tell me about it. I know.
I will check it out. Thank you, Stephen. I'm currently watching Black Mirror, working my way through that, as ever. Amazing so far. I'm loving Black Mirror. Check that out.
First couple are good. The rest, I don't know.
Don't spoil it for me.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. The new iOS Access for All book is available. Shelley Brisbane has been back. Shelley is amazing, isn't she? She's just wonderful. And for those who don't know Shelley, she used to present the Parallel podcast. She is, of course, well known for talking about this subject. She appears regularly on the Accessibility Roundtable podcast as well. But Shelley's fantastic. She writes her book every year. She's up to iOS 18, of course. And you might think, hang on a minute, we're getting close to iOS 19. Well, this is the problem with the world we're in now, is that, everything moves so quickly. So Shelley's always sort of pushing to keep up as best she can. But she has produced this new book, which is available from her website, which you can find at iosaccessbook.com. iosaccessbook.com. You can buy the book in various formats, and I noticed that she's put up a new version this year, which is an EPUB version without images. And this is for people who are using Victor Reader Stream or things like, devices like this where, file size might be more important. And, obviously without the images, there's no perhaps need for them on those that particular book. So she can take that off. So if you're totally blind and you want access to that book and you want it in a more compact format, then do go check out iosaccessbook.com. It's well worth getting. It honestly is, because what is wonderful is how she just gets into so much detail about not just not just the whole subject of iOS, but iPadOS as well. She goes into everything. So worth checking out.
Absolutely. And as you said, she's constantly playing catch up with every update that comes out, right? Especially about Apple Intelligence recently. But the thing is, it will just give you just the foundational. If you're new, I would say get this, because it just runs you through the settings, the various options, the various functions. And it's a great resource, I've got to say. She does an amazing job, Shelley.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, iosaccessbook.com. Check it out, and we'll be talking to Shelley very soon. Actually, do you know she's going to be coming by? I might actually be getting the chance to meet her in person.
Where's she going? To Glasgow?
She's going to. Everyone comes to Glasgow. Glasgow's the best place in the world.
All right, okay. What's she doing over there?
I think she's on holiday. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but anyway,
well,
she
leave her alone.
No, she reached out to me.
Okay.
Yeah, she wanted to see me. Mm-hmm.
Okay, not me.
No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Email.
We'll just leave that.
We get your email every day.
Oh, Shaun's
Ding
sad.
dong.
Here's your mail today.
Sad oosh.
Oh,
Okay.
sadoosh. That's not
No,
good.
it's fine, Shelley. Don't worry about it.
I was watching back one of the shows the other day. I have to say, it's a bad day when you watch your own show back and you laugh. That's
It's like from the hospital bed.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And it was kind of make me laugh because there's one of the email jingles we did where you and I are going, it was like, oosh, oosh. And we were just kind of dancing along with it. And then you're going, oosh. And it became basically like a Norwegian kids' TV show all of a sudden.
Ooshi, ooshi, ooshi. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's talk about Glide because we've had a lot of people getting in touch on this. Callum is first up.
Hey, Double Tappers. Just got a quick message about Glidance. I don't know when you'll get time to air this, but for those who are in the UK and in the Manchester area, there is a Glidance demo day coming to Manchester on the 23rd of May. So there's 2 sessions available. There's a morning session and an afternoon session. And when I looked a couple of hours ago, I think, to book my slot, there was still a few slots available. I think there was like 25 slots for the morning session and 23 for the afternoon session, both lasting 2 hours. So that's what was available a couple of hours ago at the time of this recording, but I imagine they'll get booked up pretty quickly. But that's on the 23rd of May at the Guide Dogs Northwest Centre in Atherton in Greater Manchester. So if people are interested, if you're in that area and you want to try out Glidance, or, well, try out Glide, I guess, then, go to the Glidance website and you can find details on there. So I've booked in and, looking forward to finally getting to try this out. As I said, I don't know when you guys will get to it, probably in June, but I just thought I'd try and give people a heads up anyway. Keep up the good show and speak to you soon.
Thank you, Callum. Well, we didn't, did we? We got there before June. Yeah, we're clever.
See, Callum. Mm-hmm. Yes, very good. If you can get to try this out, I've got to say, you got to do it. It's
absolutely.
Exciting.
Yeah, I mean, this is wonderful to get a chance to go and try. And it's funny because obviously they are having to book people in. And it makes sense because look, when we were at Site Village in London and at CSUN as well, it was mobbed. I mean, you couldn't move for people who were around that stand. I mean, you could honestly, it's just, people are so intrigued by this device.
Yeah, rightfully so.
And so they are queuing up. So it makes total sense to do this. It's a smart move actually on their part to do that. But let us know how you got on, Callum. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. And I cannot wait to hear any of your thoughts when you get a chance to try it. And I think we do have some people here who have tried it, Shaun, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, here's James.
Hello, Shaun, Stephen, and of course all the other double tappers. It's James from Missouri, and I got to attend a Glide demo day on the 15th in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I did pre-order it. I have also pre-ordered the Giga glasses, so I think that these two are going to work really well together. I'm excited to see how that works. At least I'm going to get the glasses first, so I'll get to start learning those first before I get the much more involved task of learning Glide. But I didn't get to see a newer model. Apparently all the engineers have them right now. So what we got for this demo day was Mr. Crunchy, so the same one that Shaun and Stephen got to try.
Mr. Crunchy.
And so I don't want to say a whole lot about how it performed because it's already an inaccurate representation of how it is performing, let alone how it will perform once it finally ships. But what I do want to talk about is just the feelings and thoughts that I had while using it as someone that has used a cane for 15 plus years, we'll say. I felt like I was missing some information as far as when you use a cane to navigate, you find an object and you realize, or you figure out what the object is, and then that's how you figure out how to navigate around it. I could tell that it was navigating me around things, but I didn't know what they were. So when I ran into a point where I couldn't tell which way to go, I could tell that it was trying to get me around something, but I couldn't tell which way to go because I didn't know what the object was. And that made me realize that, that's something I'm just going to have to get used to. I'm not going to know what things are. And conceptually, I've known about that for a long time because I've grown up in the blind community and I know people that have guide dogs. And so I know conceptually how that is, but to actually be faced with that was very different. I'm looking forward to it being quieter. Of course, that's already the case with the new ones. And I am surprised at how small it was. I don't know, for some reason I thought it would be bigger. But it is very small, and of course the final one will be manufacturer grade instead of a prototype, so it'll look a lot different and will probably be a little bit smaller, but the size is pretty much finalized as far as the base. And I did pick it up from the handle, and it is very, very light. I was very surprised at how light it is, so I could imagine even just picking this up at a set of stairs, holding it to my side, and it being able to tell me if the steps change, like if there's one that's shorter than the other one, or if there's a flat part before you get to the next set of steps. We have some steps like that here. That's about all I have for now. Love the show and hope that this finds everyone well.
Thanks, James. Really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, it's great when you get hands-on with it. You did have Mr. Crunchy. I love that. That should be a name. I think that should be an option, actually.
The Mr. Crunchy edition.
The Mr. Crunchy edition. And, for those who hadn't tried it yet or haven't tried it at that point, basically what we were talking about there was when it was moving you from left to right, it did have a kind of crunch as it was turning.
It's the servo noises. I will say, though, that this is the reason people need to get hands-on, because that brings up an excellent point, right? Because, as he mentioned there, guide dog users will be used to this and not knowing what they're walking around. But as a cane user, I'm feeling everything, and I sort of identify what it is I'm moving around, right? Yeah. So with this, it just steers you around. So would it be helpful to have an option where it shouts out the obstacle that it's recognized? Is that even possible? And in that case as well of picking it up, I mean, that's a really good idea. If you carry it, could it switch to, carry mode, in which case it does shout out obstacles because you're using it in a different way and it does give you different information. It's just an interesting observation, that's all. And these all come from people getting hands-on with them.
I saw someone the other day on social media who had put up a comment about using a cane. And, you tend to see these comments from people who are guide dog users. And they'll say, oh, here I am using my cane, and life's so much harder with a cane. And, and it kind of annoys me a little bit when I read that stuff, because I'm like, look, for those of us who use canes and maybe don't have dogs for various reasons, we have to live with these things. So don't go around telling everybody it's terrible, right? Because if you're publicizing, if you're essentially someone on social media who is out there advocating for us as a community, really, you've got to say this is your opinion, okay? Loads of people love their canes. I'm not a big fan. That's fine. That is absolutely fine. But don't present it as if it's some kind of lesser than. I hate that when I read that. Because for me, actually, I kind of like to know my environment. I don't always like the idea. A guide dog just takes you right past things, right? It'll weave you via, obstacles and all the rest of it. It'll move you around them, and that's great. A cane, you'll find them, and that's okay too. Like, I'm looking for my bin. I don't want the dog to take me past it. I want it to find the bin. So, there's that kind of thing. So, I don't mind people saying that they're not a fan of the cane. That's fine. But Could you just
or even
comment that it's your own opinion, please? Because I'm sick hearing this from the sense of that somehow it's lesser than.
Yeah, or I just miss not having access to my guide dog is
Totally
more
fine.
than enough.
Totally understandable. Yeah, totally.
It's a different experience, though, right? Because the people that I talk to just say when they're using their guide dog, they don't even think. They're just moving. And of course, even with a cane, most of the time I'm still thinking 1,000 things a second in every step, right? So that must be nice as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, that's kind of where the glide comes in, and it kind of is that.
Yeah.
That's why it's the third category. It is interesting using it because to me, it is having the experience of the guide dog years ago. It is something that is very reminiscent of it. But I do like the idea of having the handle, especially for stairs, because I'll be honest, this is the bit that makes me nervous. I'm not good on stairs. And, I shuffle my way down steps most of the time, even with a cane, to be honest. Even when I get to the last step, I'm always doing that thing where I'm kind of battering the cane off the bottom step, making sure that it is definitely the last step. Because I've done it before. I've gone off a step and it's not been the last one, or I've thought it was, and you've tripped down a step.
It's scary.
It is.
I tell you what makes me, every time when I get to the top of the stairs and I try and step up another one.
Yes. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah.
What am I doing?
Oof.
Yeah.
I know.
God.
Head first into a door. Yeah. All that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Stuart. He's also wanting to share some thoughts on Glide.
Hi, Stephen. Hi, Shaun. It's Stuart Lawler here from Dublin in Ireland. Just have been on holidays for a couple of days and managed to have about a week's or a little over a week's worth of double tap. So I think I'm pretty much caught up now. Great shows as always, and thoroughly enjoyed them. I did want to come back on one point, and that was Shaun's feedback on Glide after using it in California. And I have a very similar experience to Shaun. I think, Shaun, I tried it in the exhibition hall as well. I just found it incredible that I didn't have my cane, put my cane in my back pocket, actually, walked around with this thing, felt I was walking as fast as I would with my cane in a familiar area. And it got me thinking, and I suppose you've kind of spoken to it already, about Glide it was great in that place in a controlled environment, but it's not that I don't trust it out in the streets. It's nothing like that. I just wonder how I would feel about using it in the street. And it got me thinking about society knows the white cane. Society knows the guide dog. They know what it is. I almost feel like society has to get to know and become comfortable with Glide. So whilst I think Glide would be great for me in the centre of Dublin, I'm not sure how comfortable I would feel because of what society might perceive me as having, if that makes sense. So I think that's going to take a little while for all of us as users to get comfortable, for society to become aware of it. It could be years, but it did get me thinking how comfortable I'd be to use it in public, and I'm not sure I'm ready to do that yet in my own thought processes. Anyway, great show as always. Look forward to more, and look after yourselves. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Stuart. Good to hear from you. I hope you didn't have to have the holiday because you spent 11 hours with me on a plane.
Yes.
And as such, you felt you had to take a break from that. Oh, and saying that, he sounds like he's just had another 5 hours with me in his ears on holiday. So actually, can't be that.
Can't get enough of you, Stephen Scott.
Or you.
It was a great point. Yeah, I had the same experience as well. I felt perfectly comfortable with it. But it does bring up that argument, right? And again, it sort of leaks over to the blind uniform argument.
Yes,
do we need to put out a press release saying the blind uniform has been updated now to include the Glide?
Yeah.
Obviously there are going to be issues here, but would that put you off actually using it, Stephen Scott, that members of the public will be confused by what we're actually using here? I don't think it would put me off using it.
Well, I have to be honest. 5-6 years ago, very probably.
Yes.
Now, no. I think that's the thing. I think over time it changes because we're so self-confident as it is, and what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know. Self-aware,
lack of self-confidence, I guess.
Yeah.
We have such lack of self-confidence, and I feel that when we're out and about, we're so aware of ourselves. We're thinking about everything we do. Like if we make a mistake or we bump into something, it kind of is magnified. It's like it creates an echo around you.
Oh, yes. And that hot feeling rises up through your body as, am I getting embarrassed here? Yes.
And then you kind of have that moment, I don't know if you've done this, but you stand still for a minute and you think, okay, no one said anything, that's fine, we'll just carry on, and it's okay. if you hear a snigger or you hear a laugh, even if that person maybe will be laughing at something totally different, not even bothering with you, you know, you just immediately feel like, oh God, what have I done? You know, so there's that. And so I think when you add all that up, bringing a new device like this into the environment would make it quite awkward for someone in that stage. I feel I'm at the point now where I can kind of comfortably say, do you know what? I'm okay for people to ask me the questions. I'm okay for the weird thoughts that are going to be going through people's minds. I also feel, if I'm honest, Stuart, I don't think people know the white cane as much as we think they do. I think guide dogs, yes. I think people are mostly aware of what a guide dog is. Or if they see a person with a guide dog, it kind of makes sense to them. But I don't think that's the case with the white cane fully. And that's kind of what gives me the confidence even more a little bit with the Glide. It's a case of, you know what, people might not even understand what my cane is. You know, most people think it's a walking aid. It's not anything to do with mobility. So when that's the case, what's Glide going to do that's going to be different, you know? And it's going to ask or incur the same questions, I think. Interesting points, though. We'll get into more of them tomorrow on the show. We're out of time, Shaun, but thank you as always, guys. Yeah, I know, it flies by.
Again.
I know.
Wow.
I should probably stop ranting as much this week.
Relax.
No guarantees that'll not be the case again tomorrow. But yes, I shall talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, Shaun. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.